Everyone hits a bump in the road. What do you do with it? Be inspired as we explore the ways people experience, navigate, and manage the ups and downs and twists and turns in this road trip called life. Welcome to another episode of Bump in the Road. The basic podcast is always free. We also have a premium subscription called Bump 2 that lets you listen in on extended behind-the-scenes conversations with our guests. Check it out at www.bumpintheroad.us. Kim Sorrelle has a wonderful book, Love Is. After a breast cancer diagnosis followed by the death of her husband from pancreatic cancer, Kim went on a quest for love, to try to define it, understand it, and to share it. Her quest led her in unexpected directions, and what resulted is a book about hope, patience, kindness, and ultimately about love. Please welcome Kim Sorrelle to Bump in the Road. Kim, welcome to Bump in the Road. If you would, tell us your story.
Pat, thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful to be here. You've got the greatest podcast. Everybody should listen to it. It's so inspirational. Changes my day when I listen to your podcast. So I have had a life like everybody else has had. You know, we all go through stuff. And I was married to the most wonderful man. I met him when I was 18 years old and fell madly in love. And we had a great marriage. And then I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And that alone is a big bump. Like, nobody wants to hear the C word. Like, that's a scary moment when you find out you have that. And I started writing. It was very therapeutic for me, but it was also a way to keep people up to date on I'm going to the doctor tomorrow kind of thing. But it was so much more than just that. It was what I was going through, choices I had to make, how I was feeling emotionally, spiritually, physically, everything that was going on. And 4 months into my cancer journey, my husband was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And pancreatic cancer is one of the worst diagnoses you can ever hear. And by the time they find it, it's usually way too late to do anything. And they thought maybe he'd live for a year or so. But 6 weeks into his journey, I was holding him because he was in pain and I was afraid he was going to fall off the bed. And so I was holding him from behind and I could just feel his agony. So I whispered in his ear, I just said, "Baby, just go." And he took his last breath. That was it. And so that was not fun and trying to figure out this new life. And I still had to go through my stuff. The writings that I did became a book, Cry Until You Laugh. But one of the major things it did for me, Pat, is it made me question the real meaning of love. You know, like it's something that we think we know, we're taught love, you know, we think we know love, but what does it really mean? I wanted to make sure I was honoring my husband the best way I could by living fully. And I figured I really needed to know the true meaning of love in order to do that. So I did what any other new widow would do. I went to Haiti and then I dedicated a year to figuring out the true meaning of love. And the things that I found out blew my mind.
What are some of the things you found out?
Oh my goodness. Well, first of all, there are so many myths about love. There are so many things that we believe about love that just aren't true. Like, for instance, you hear often love is a two-way street, right? You hear that. And you have to give love to get love. And the truth is that there is no truth to that. Love is a one-way street. If you give love expecting love in return, you're just setting yourself up for heartache and loneliness and disappointment. You know, when we have a baby and we bring that baby home from the hospital, we have total control. We decide when the baby eats, when the baby sleeps, when the baby has a bath. But 6, 7, 8 months later, all of your Tupperware is all over the kitchen floor. Pots and pans are banging everywhere. You realize you have lost total control. And I promise you, you never get it back again. We have no control over anyone. We only have control over ourselves. So if we're giving love to get love, we can do it with expectations of how that love should be returned. And again, it just sets you up for failure in relationships, failure in love. Love is a one-way street. Love is something that is 100% on you. You give love, period. Whether it comes back to you, doesn't come back to you, it doesn't matter. You love.
That's so interesting. One of the things I've struggled with over time is patience. It's a real hurdle for me. But I have found as time goes on, the more patient I become, the fewer opportunities there are to learn patience. And I think that's true of anything. And I think it applies to love in that the more you love, the more you become love. The more patient you are, the more you become patient. I think that all those attributes we seek really start with ourselves.
That is such a great point. I love that you said that. And I love that you brought up patience, because patience is one of those things that, I always heard, if you pray for patience, you're going to get it, like something bad's going to happen. And so it was something I was always kind of afraid to pray for. My father was this wonderful man, but type A all the way. And one day he told me he prided himself on his patience. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, if that's patience, I don't know what I'd call that, but patience is not what I'd call it. But I used this 2,000-year-old poem as a roadmap for this year of discovery, that is, love is patient, love is kind, does not envy, does not boast, etc. So right out of the gate, the very first word is patient. And I worked on each one for a month thinking, oh, this will be easy, I can figure this out. And none of it was easy. And patient, love that is patient, I discovered is different than just patience in general. That you put love is or love is not in front of a word, and it changes the meaning. But so love that is patient, and I just believe you're supposed to love everybody. Just love everybody. It's the best way to live. And love that is patient would say, this moment right here, right now, whoever you are with in this moment is the most important moment of your life. What's in the past is in the past, and what's in the future is yet to come. This is the most important moment of your life. And so love that is patient is fully present, really listening, really focused in on the person that you're with. And I got to tell you, Pat, I stunk at this. I was horrible, because I would be thinking about a meeting I had later, who I had to pick up from soccer practice, what I was going to make from dinner, all these different things going through my mind, thinking that I'm fully engaged, thinking that I'm really listening to this other person. And the truth is, I don't know if anybody has that superpower. I certainly do not. And so I had to practice and practice and practice this. But when I got it, it changed my life, because I really heard what people were saying. I wasn't hearing what I was assuming they would say or what I thought they'd say based on some label I put on them, which love has no labels. And so to be living that love that is patient, you are fully engaged and fully present, listening much more than speaking, and really listening, really listening. We all need to be heard. And that's part of loving, is listening.
I love that you mentioned presence. I think presence is very difficult in this day and age, but I think it's essential, because if you're not present, you are not living your life. You're off in a fantasy of the past or the future, but you're not here now. And then boom, that moment is gone. I don't have an easy answer
It's
for
so
this.
true.
Yeah, I don't have an easy answer, but I think practicing presence is something we all, excuse me, we all would really benefit from.
Oh my gosh, I totally agree with that. I really agree with that. And I think that there are ways that you can practice presence. I think one is just being so aware of where you are at any given moment. Instead of hurrying to the next place, be where you are. Be where you are, which might sound simple, but again, for me, this has taken practice, because I can easily think about the next thing I need to do, and I need to be there, but I'm not there. I'm here. And so practice being here, and being happy in the here that you are. You'll be there soon enough, but you're here right now. So soak in the moments. Soak in the moments of the here, whatever it is that's going on right here, right now.
Yeah, I think I came to presence through two paths. One was flying, where it was really a matter of being in the flow. You had enough mastery and enough skill to do things well, and that kind of led to a flow experience. But I think the thing that really changed my perspective on presence was learning to meditate, because I think that until you can learn to quiet your mind, you can't observe your thoughts. And observing your thoughts is the first step to any sort of awareness.
I love that. I think that that is so true. Some people hear the word meditate and they think of, some guru somewhere, whatever, but meditation, prayer, whatever you want to call it, it is so important and so underutilized by so many people. But I agree. I mean, it's the way to start your day. It's the way to quiet your mind in the middle of chaos or in the middle of decision making or whatever it happens to be. It is amazing what comes to you when you quiet your mind. The the days for me that I take the time to meditate in the morning are so much more productive. I have so much more clarity. I'm so much more focused on what I need to do and what needs to get done and enjoying getting things done. And so I love that you brought up meditation. It's such a gift to give yourself.
It is. And it's interesting you bring up clarity, because I think that with meditation, you find patience, and that helps with clarity. I mean, it all kind of ties together.
It does. It absolutely does. Yeah. I mean, for some people, it's not easy to just sit and quiet your mind. And again, that's something that takes practice. But I don't know anyone who has developed a practice of meditation, of prayer, of just quiet, seeking guidance and regrets it. No, everybody that I know that has developed a practice of doing that is so grateful and talks about the way that it changes their life.
Is gratitude part of love?
Oh my word, absolutely, absolutely. Gratitude should be a part of everything. Gratitude is so important. There are so many things that we take for granted, like our health, for instance. I mean, you've gone through not one, more than one horrible health issues. And I've gone through a few myself. And man, I think about like having COVID or the flu and you're feeling just so horrible. And when I'm in those moments, which, you try to avoid, but that sometimes it just happens. But when I'm in those moments of feeling so horrible, that's when I'm most grateful for my health. And I can't wait to feel good again. Like I just think to myself, oh, it's going to feel so good to feel good again. But I should be grateful for my health all the time, not just when I'm sick, but all the time, but grateful for everything. I find myself looking around my house and being in awe, like somebody made paint. Somebody made that. Somebody made carpet and floorboards. Like I'm grateful to the people that use their ingenuity to do things. So gratitude, I think, goes beyond being grateful for food and health. Even it's for everything. Somebody has touched everything we touch in life. Somebody has touched. I mean, how grateful should we be to those people that have done what they've done so we do what we do and live the way we live?
One of your chapters that I find really interesting is Love Always Trusts. Talk about that a little bit. What is trust? What role does it play? How does it change our lives?
Oh my word, this is a big one. This is a big one. They're all big and they're also different than what I thought. And trust, we think we know what trust is, of course, but love that always trusts gives people the benefit of the doubt. I don't know about you, Pat, but I've had times in my life when I've been in conversations when I've thought, can I believe this person? Are they really telling me the truth? Are they making up stories? Like, is this for real? And that is not love that always trusts. When you take people at their word, when you assume truth instead of assuming lies, people live up to that. If you find people trustworthy, if you give them your trust, that's a big thing to trust people. And if you show that you trust somebody, people want to live up to being worthy of that trust. And so to instead of assuming lies, instead of, sure, when somebody hurts you, when somebody does you wrong, when you know that you've been deceived, then of course you're going to put your guard up a bit. But before then, just let people have their own stories. Don't question. You don't have to question. Just trust people and let them have their own stories and interpret their own stories the way that they do. And that is love that always trusts.
I think the most profound statement I've run into on trust was from Mary Neal. She is an orthopedic surgeon, a spine surgeon, who went kayaking down the Fue River in Chile. And through a series of incidents, she got stuck under a waterfall, died, had a near-death experience. And she's of her whole experience, which is just it's remarkable. The story is incredible because you have this linear scientist trying to make sense of this spiritual experience she had. And it took her over a year she spent a year trying to disprove her experience, and ultimately she could not. But what she said that has always stuck with me, she said that she moved from hope to trust.
That's beautiful.
Isn't that? And I think that,
Yeah, I love that.
I think that trust, hope, all these things play such a big role in our lives. Speaking of hope, love always hopes. Why does love always hope?
Well, you never give up on anybody. You always hope that things will be better for someone. You always hope that there's a better day ahead. And sometimes people do give up on people and say they're hopeless. What a sad word to use when it comes to a fellow human being, that they're hopeless. Nobody is hopeless. Nobody is hopeless. There couldn't be times when you need to separate yourself from someone, that maybe there's an addiction involved, or maybe they're being abusive in some way, and it's okay. Love would say, walk away. You're getting hurt, you're getting abused, you're emotionally, physically, whatever. Walk away, because if you stay, you're not allowing that person to change. You're not giving them space to change because you're staying in this situation. So love would say, walk away. But love that always hopes would also say, don't give up a hope on that person. It doesn't mean that you don't divorce them or that you don't, separate entirely. Yeah, okay, that might be what you need to do, but it doesn't mean that that person is then hopeless. Like, you always want to continue to love. You might not like things that people are doing, but love is so different than like. And hope for a better day for them, and hope that you learn something through it. And love just never thinks of anything or anyone as hopeless. Love always hopes.
I like the idea of giving love to someone, even though they've done something that is truly hurtful to you. I think it is ultimately the only way to resolve whatever feelings you have, is they really get cast aside and just say, I love you. I hope it all works for you.
Right. Well, and we pick the narrative on things, right?
Oh,
We
absolutely.
decide the tone of the story. Yeah, I mean, two people can be in the same traffic jam, and one guy is yelling out the window and honking his horn, and his veins are sticking out of his neck, and his blood pressure's going up, and he's angry and he's mad. And the guy in the car next door is going, wow, I'm in a traffic jam. There's nothing I can do about it. So, hey, Pat's got this great Bump in the Road podcast. I think I'll just sit back and listen. And then when he goes somewhere, that man walking into the next place, seeing the next people he's going to see, is going to be entirely different than the guy who has raised his blood pressure and made endorphins just go off like crazy in his brain. And when he sees the next person, love probably isn't the first thing on his mind. So we get to choose the narrative. We get to pick how we react to things. And so, yes, so to be able to always give love, to not turn narratives nasty just to turn them nasty, but instead give people the benefit of the doubt. We all need that sometimes. We all need grace and mercy from our fellow people. And just as we need it, we need to extend it. And so make sure that you keep the narrative in check.
I think narratives are so important, and we all have our own narratives. And one of the things that I find really interesting to do is to take an event or a time period in your life and tell your story from a perspective of, say, love, a perspective of anger, maybe a perspective of jealousy. Write it down, write your different stories. It's stunning to see how you can not only rewrite your perceptions, but the power of choice you have in terms of what is your story.
I love that idea, because it would be 3 completely different stories. And then pick the right one. Pick the one that makes you feel good.
Or realize they're all just
Right?
stories. How valid are they? Because when you think about it, this is getting a little esoteric, forgive me, but when you think about it, if you're present, there's not really a story. It just is.
I love the way you said that. That should be on posters in everybody's offices. It's so true. It's so true, because the stories are the things that we make up, the embellishments we put on things sometimes, right?
Now, the way your book is structured, every chapter is about love. And I just think this is such a brilliant idea. One of the chapters is love is not self-seeking. Oh my gosh, I think that is just so powerful and so true, because too often in our society, we're so materially oriented that love can be perceived as material wealth. Love can be perceived as the right neighborhood, the hot car, whatever it is, all of which is totally shallow. But you may not recognize it.
Yes. Yeah, that's so true. I think of things, when I think of self-seeking and that love is not self-seeking, I think of things like letting somebody go in front of you at the grocery store, or not always having to be the first in line, not having to have the first thing, not being the one who grabs the best always, but wanting other people to be the first in line, wanting other people to grab the bigger one, wanting to do that for other people. It's amazing when you get out of yourself and you think more of others than you think of yourself. I mean, sure, you got to take care of yourself, absolutely, but do you have to be first? When you get out of yourself and you let other people be first, some people, it's so easy to, right? You got grandkids, man, you're going to give them the biggest one, right? It's so easy to give the grandkids whatever it is they want. You will forego whatever to make those grandbabies happy. But think about life if we were like that with everybody. If we love everybody enough to say, stranger at the grocery store, I don't know you, but you seem to be in a hurry, so please go ahead of me. Or you've got 3 items, I've got 25. Please, of course, go ahead of me. Instead of, gosh, I'll save 2 minutes if I go first. It's so often I think we think that things are going to save us so much time. If we cut somebody off in traffic, if we have to be first in line, we're going to save so much time. When in reality, it goes back to what you were talking about with being present and being here. And the present is going to wait for you. I mean, the future is the future. So seek good things for other people. It feels great, for one thing, but it's also the right thing to do.
It's impossible to sum up love, so I'm going to ask you to do it. How would you sum it up? And what would you say to somebody about love?
Yeah, well, it's true that it's hard to sum it up, but there is this umbrella over all these other nuances and all these other things that fall under love. There is this umbrella of love. And the biggest thing I would say is that love is not an emotion. You watch a scary movie and that night you go to bed and you hear every bump and every creak and you're afraid all night long, right? And that's fear. Fear is an emotion, but the next night you're doing a lot better. You're not hearing all the bumps and the creaks. Fear comes and goes. That's an emotion. Love does not come and go. It's not an emotion. Love is who you are. Love is walking and talking and living and breathing and giving. Love is who you are. It's not something you hang up in the coat closet when you get home from work or put aside at any given moment, put in the seat next to you. It is who you are always. How you decide to live it and how you decide to give love is up to you. But it is all encompassing. It is everywhere, everything, and it is who you are.
Thank you for listening. I hope you'll support this podcast by becoming a Bump 2 subscriber. Buy us a cup of coffee. It's your support that makes this podcast and website possible. I hope you found something in today's podcast that inspires you along your own life's path, because sometimes a bump in the road is actually a portal into a more conscious and meaningful life.